This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain an action, sci-fi, thriller film called Awake. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. On a quiet night at a university, Jill Adams, a security guard, waits for Dr. Murphy, the psychiatrist, to leave the campus so that she can sneak into her office and steal medicine. After her shift, Jill stops by the local auto repair shop to sell the stolen pills to Greg. Afterward, she goes to her mother-in-law's house to pick up her children, Matilda and Noah. Her mother-in-law, Doris, tells Jill not to bring them home until 7 p.m. because she has a church meeting. As Jill drives the kids to school, Noah starts an argument with Jill because he doesn't like being forced to see her. Suddenly, the radio stops working, and Jill loses control of the car. She stops on the side of the road, but another vehicle slams into their car and pushes them off the bridge. Their car falls into the lake and fills up with water, so Jill helps Matilda and Noah exit the vehicle through the window by the driver's seat. As soon as Jill reaches the surface, she looks for her daughter and sees the sheriff performing CPR on her on the shore. The sheriff notes that Matilda was out for a minute, but she seems to be okay. He then discloses that the accident was caused by a widespread power failure that also caused cars to stop working. The sheriff advises Jill to go to the hospital to get treatment for the cut on her head. Upon reaching the hospital, Jill asks a doctor to check on Matilda, but everyone is busy because the emergency room is filled with patients. One man suggests that the power failure was caused by a terrorist attack, while a doctor suspects that the Chinese managed to turn off all their electronics. As Jill treats her injury, she hears someone calling for help. When she investigates, she realizes that the coma patients have regained consciousness. Jill soon takes her kids back to Doris's house. She tells Doris that she still has to go to work in the morning because the university will need security, so Doris asks her to stay the night. Jill can't sleep that night, so she tries meditating. Knowing about Jill's reputation for dealing with medications, Doris approaches her to find out if she has any pill that could put her to sleep, but Jill claims that she doesn't deal anymore. Doris deduces that Jill must be telling the truth because she has a hard time sleeping too. Before heading to work, Jill stops by Matilda's room and finds her sound asleep. On the other hand, Noah is wide awake in his room, staring at the sky. He notices flaming objects falling to Earth and concludes that they must be shooting stars, but Jill tells him that those are satellites. When Jill arrives at the university, she finds the students partying because they couldn't sleep. Before she can enter the building, Greg asks her for more pills and notes that they can sell them for double the price because of the bizarre situation. As Jill looks for drugs in the psychiatrist's office, the military arrives. A soldier soon barges into the room, so Jill introduces herself as a corporal, but she notes that she's not active anymore. When Murphy sees her holding a bag of pills, Jill tries to explain what she intends to do with them, but Murphy doesn't care. Murphy and her assistant, Brian, only focus on gathering hard copies of her files. Murphy asks Jill to join the new research hub that she's starting, but Jill declines. Before leaving, Murphy gives Brian a card with the hub's location and instructs him to take her family there as soon as possible. Brian tells Jill that she should have joined Murphy, but Jill points out that Murphy can't bring the power back because she's only a psychiatrist. Brian tells her that electricity is not their only problem and notes that the military has contingencies to replace the broken electronics. He then discloses that people will start dying soon because nobody can sleep. Jill thinks that not everyone is affected because Matilda slept the previous night. Brian expresses doubt that her daughter was actually asleep and notes that the military is setting up a hub to examine the only woman who can sleep. When Jill mentions that they got into a car accident, Brian suggests that Matilda might not be asleep and points out that people can only be awake or dead since the power outage. Jill immediately runs back home to check on Matilda. When she arrives, Noah tells her that Doris took Matilda to church. At the church, the pastor attempts to put Matilda to sleep to show the congregation that their situation is not hopeless. Matilda notes that she's not tired, so the pastor prays with her, hoping she'll get bored and doze off. At home, Jill packs food and supplies intending to pick up Matilda from the church and flee with her children to a safe place. Suddenly, Brian barges into the house and asks her if she is sure that Matilda can sleep. Jill notes that Matilda is fine, but she claims that Matilda was only pretending. However, Noah tells him that Matilda was really sleeping because he woke her up. Brian pleads with Jill to take Matilda to the hub to help them solve the unexplained phenomenon, but Jill refuses to go with him. Matilda soon falls asleep in the basement, and the pastor assures the congregation that the same thing will also happen to them soon. On the way to the church, Jill, Noah, and Brian find the sheriff lying dead in an alley while other people start to riot. Brian warns him that it will only worsen because people are starting to lose their minds due to sleep deprivation. When Matilda wakes up, people start expecting her to help them. Some even suggest sacrificing her, but the pastor stresses that they only need prayers. Jill, Noah, and Brian soon arrive to pick up Matilda, but a police officer prevents them from taking the girl. Brian explains that Matilda will not be able to help anyone if she stays in the church, and notes that the scientists need to examine her to solve the problem. A member of the congregation throws a book at Brian, so he threatens to return with the military. The police officer then shoots Brian in the head, so Doris and Matilda run off. The officer catches up to Doris, but he can't find Matilda anywhere. Soon, Jill finds her daughter hiding in the church's attic. Meanwhile, Noah inspects Brian's belongings and finds the card with the hub's location. After hearing gunshots, Jill, Matilda, and Noah flee together in the woods. While resting at a parking lot, Noah tells Jill that if they have to take Matilda to the hub to find a cure, but Jill refuses because she fears that they'll hurt her. Noah points out that they'll die eventually, and Matilda won't survive without them, so Jill agrees to take her there. Jill goes to the auto repair shop while looking for Greg, but she finds him lying on the floor while his two coworkers search for old cars without electronics. The mechanics hear the noise as she sneaks in and discovers that Greg is still alive, so one of them stomps on his head to kill him. While Jill hides, the men manage to get one of the cars running. They soon leave with the intention of coming back for another vehicle. Soon, Jill returns to the parking lot to use the other car that the men wanted to steal. On their way to the hub, Jill comes across a crashed vehicle on the road. When she investigates, she sees the two mechanics and notices bullet casings on the ground, indicating that they had an encounter with the military. Jill takes a gun from one of the men, as well as the sheriff's badge on his shirt. During a rest stop, Jill tells Noah that Murphy and her men were responsible for shooting the mechanics. She notes that Murphy helped her get into rehab and got her the job at the university. Murphy is a sleep expert, but she uses her skills to deprive people of sleep to torture them for information. She warns Noah that the military would do inhumane things to people just to find out answers. Despite this, Jill notes that she still wants to go to the hub. The following day, the three stop by a library to find a map. Jill realizes that she and Noah will die soon from sleep deprivation, so she teaches Matilda how to shoot a gun. Matilda, however, is too scared to shoot, so Jill demonstrates by firing a few rounds. Scared, Matilda goes to the back of the car and sleeps while Noah and Jill figure out the coordinates listed in Brian's card on a map. Unbeknownst to them, convicts have escaped from a nearby penitentiary, and one of them is heading toward their car. After Noah writes down the directions to the hub, Jill looks out the window and sees the escaped convicts, so she immediately heads out of the building. By the time she gets to the street, an inmate is already driving away in their car, with Matilda still inside. Jill and Noah try to chase after the car, but the prisoners soon start approaching them. When an inmate keeps walking towards them, Jill fires a warning shot, but she soon discovers that it was the last bullet. Fortunately, the man who stole the car comes back to save them. With Jill pointing the gun at him, the man introduces himself as Dodge and tells him that the guards will let them walk out of prison because they were starving. Dodge manages to grab the firearm from Jill, only to learn that it doesn't have any bullets. Later, Dodge and Noah inspect a plane wreckage to find something useful, while Jill and Matilda siphon fuel from a tractor. Dodge ditches his prison uniform after finding some clothes in the wreckage. Dodge learns from Noah that they're trying to find a cure, so he decides to go with them to the hub. That night, Jill teaches Matilda how to drive, since she's the only person who got enough rest to focus on the road. After a while, Matilda inadvertently drives into a camp where they see people hanging upside down while being drained of blood. Jill immediately takes over the wheel as people start approaching the car. Soon, the people break their windows and try to grab them, but they manage to get away. When they get close to the hub, Dodge drops off the family at an abandoned house and goes on his way. Jill instructs the two to stay in the house while she goes to the hub to investigate. Jill soon arrives outside the hub and sees soldiers injecting each other with drugs. After hiding from the soldiers on patrol, Jill heads to the entrance and overhears two soldiers entering a code into an electronic lock, so she memorizes the code and uses it as soon as they're gone. When she gets inside, Jill wears a lab coat and pretends to be a doctor to look for the woman who can sleep. Upon finding the woman, she pretends to take her blood sample while telling her that she will help her escape. She asks the woman to raise her daughter because she won't have anyone to care for her when everyone dies in the next few days. The woman, however, tells Jill that she's the one who needs help because she was supposed to be dead months ago. Murphy soon arrives and catches Jill with the woman, so Jill pretends that she came to help. Murphy notes that they've been working for 6 days, but they still have no cure. They've created a drug cocktail that allows them to stay sane and alert, but it causes neurological damage. Later, Jill sees flares in the sky, and Dodge arrives with Matilda and Noah. Matilda tells the soldiers that she can sleep, so they take them into the hub. The following day, Matilda sees a chimpanzee with an open skull and exposed brain as she prepares to undergo some tests. Dr. Katz notes that they're experimenting on the chimp because it's the closest animal to humans. When Murphy arrives, Katz applies sleeping gas on Matilda to confirm that she can sleep. Later, Murphy visits Jill in a storage room where she's locked up and chained to a pipe. Murphy expresses her dismay that Jill didn't tell her about Matilda, but she notes that she understands because she's also a mother. She deduces that their condition might be caused by a solar flare that messed up with the electromagnetic wiring in the human brain. Jill begs her to let Matilda go, but Murphy contends that the girl is the key to their survival. The doctors learn that Dodge is an electrician, so they inject him with stimulants to make him useful. While Matilda undergoes another test, she notices that the woman who can sleep has stopped breathing. Katz and Murphy immediately try to restart her heart with a defibrillator, but they eventually give up. In the storage room, Noah castigates Jill after figuring out that she wants to leave Matilda with a stranger. Jill screams for mercy as Noah starts choking her, but a guard soon enters the room and tells Noah to come with them. Jill realizes that she's been hallucinating when she sees that Noah is chained to a pipe on the other side of the room. That night, the soldiers get delirious and imagine that they're under attack. A soldier shoots the guard that is escorting Noah to the lab. Meanwhile, a female soldier enters the storage room and thinks that Jill is a woman named Sandra. Jill pretends to be Sandra, thinking that the soldier will help her escape. However, the soldier fires at her twice before blowing her own head off. Luckily, the woman only hit a pipe, so Jill uses her remaining strength to break it and escape from the room. In the lab, Katz injects Murphy with the stimulant, but he fails to remove the air from the needle. When Jill arrives to rescue Matilda, Murphy threatens to cut the child's throat, but she suddenly drops dead. Katz reveals that he didn't remove the air on purpose because Murphy wants to perform a fatal experiment on Matilda. As the soldiers continue shooting each other, Jill and Matilda crawl out of the lab to find Noah. Soon, they find Noah cutting a live wire with a metallic object, thinking that he's gutting a fish. Noah gets electrocuted and stops moving, so Matilda runs back to the lab to get the defibrillator. They try to revive him, but the shock knocks Matilda unconscious. Jill cries in anguish, realizing that she lost her son. By morning, all the soldiers have died in the mayhem. Soon, Matilda wakes up and finds Jill lying catatonic on top of Noah. She starts crying thinking that he's dead, but she soon realizes that he's breathing. She immediately wakes him up and tells Jill that Noah is still alive. Noah mentions that he was dreaming while he was unconscious. As they embrace each other, a Coast Guard approaches them while he's pointing his gun at them, so Jill stands between him and the children to protect them. The man soon puts his firearm down upon realizing that the family poses no threat. As they prepare to leave, Noah tells Jill that she made the right decision to find someone to raise Matilda. By that time, Jill is too weak to move due to the lack of sleep. Noah stresses that he's not prepared to lose her because Matilda still needs her. When Matilda sees the sheriff's badge on the floor, she recalls that the sheriff resuscitated her when she drowned in the lake. She then points out to Noah that he died the previous night, and she brought him back with the defibrillator. Noah misses her point, so she explains that she must have died too when she drowned, and she probably was able to sleep because her brain restarted when she was revived. They realize that Jill needs to die temporarily to regain the ability to sleep, so they carry her to the river to drown her. After putting her into the water, Matilda and Noah hold her down until she stops breathing. Not long after, they pull her out of the water. After Noah performs CPR on her for a while, Jill finally wakes up and gasps for air.
This is all for Story Recap for today. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Tell us in the comments if you want us to recap your favorite movie. Watch other of our videos showing on the screen and leave a like because it helps the channel. And I would see you in the next video. Goodbye.